or landform is a function of a structure process and stage. Stage means time. Or try of Davis, or the first theory of landforms development. So the language may be any, but answer will be the same. Never get nervous in the examination. Okay, what is this try of Davis? Davis was a geomorphologist, William Morris Davis. He said, landform is a function of structure, process, and stage. This is 3. It is known as the try of Davis. The question may be on the geographical cycle, it may be normal cycle of erosion, it may be a function, landform is a function of a structure, process, stage, or try of Davis, or the first theory of landforms development. All stand for the same, they are पर्यायवाची, they are interchangeable, they are synonyms. इसलिए nervous होने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now in 1899, William Morris Davis developed the first theory of landforms development. That's why it is known as the first theory. He is also considered as the father of geomorphology. And with this background, note down a few. And the book of Davis itself is 500 pages. His book is Geomorphology by William Morris Davis, and it contains about 500 pages. In your examination, it will be a 20 marks question. What should be written is important. We have to exclude many things from that book, or anything which is in the books also. We have to confine to 20 minutes answer. So note down some point first. The geographical model of landforms development was developed by W.M. Davis in 1899. Stop. Next sentence. Continue. The model was based on the field study conducted in the basin of Pennsylvania River. This was his area of study. It applies to the regions where rainfall is recorded. In his opinion, next line, in his opinion, no, cut this. W.M. Davis was influenced by the Charles Darwin's theory in bracket origin of a species. Somewhere we have to insert this sentence, origin of a species. Actually, this is a very classic book, published in 1859. So Davis also read this book. Charles Darwin applies his theory of struggle for survival or fittest to survive, rest are eliminated on living organisms. All living beings, they have to struggle. The healthy, energetic and powerful will survive, the weak will disappear. This is the central idea. And man evolved through this process of evolution. That is also known as the evolutionary theory. Davis, when he read this book, he said, this theory is applicable not only to living organisms, it applies to the non-living things also. And non-living things are mountains, plains, or not having the life, jad padarth, that is javik and jad. So he said this applies to the non-living things also, like mountains, plateaus and plains, they are not living. Because he said these relief features like mountains, plateaus and plains, they take birth, they originate. Birth is in the case of living organisms, birth is in the case of the non-living organisms. Then living organisms like human beings, they pass through the teething problem, baby and childhood. Same is the case with the mountains. They are in the youth stage. In the youth stage, there are steep slopes, and the rivers, they are cutting downward and headward. These are the characteristics of youth. The youth have a tendency to make noise. The rivers are making noise. There are waterfalls, there are rapids. They are hitting the ground, breaking the rocks and doing downward cutting. So this feature is common among the children of human beings and the rivers in the mountainous area. Then they become mature. The behavior of mature is different from the behavior of children or youth. आप लोग भाग के बस में चढ़ेंगे, चढ़ जाएंगे. आपका दोस्त बस में चढ़ गया तो आप चाहे पीछे हो, आप भाग के चढ़ेंगे उसमें. लेकिन बूढ़े आदमी को सोचना पड़ेगा कि गिरा तो हड्डी टूटेगी और फिर जुड़ेगी नहीं, तो वो कंस्टेंट्स आ जाते हैं. सो यूथ एंटर्स इनटू द मैच्योर स्टेज. वो सोचने लगता है, शादी हो जाती है कि भाई ये रिस्क लेना ठीक है या नहीं है. देन इट इज ए सिंबल ऑफ मैच्योरिटी. इट लीड्स टू फाइनली द मैच्योर विल go into the old age. He will become Bodha. Mountain will also become Bodha. And this old stage of the mountains is very long, or landforms is very long stage. For example, for the last several crore years, Aravalli is in the old stage. Himalaya is in the youth stage. So the simple submission is, he said that the organic theory applies to the non-livings also. So he was influenced by Charles Darwin's theory and said even his theory is applicable to non-living. Underline this sentence because he was influenced by the book of Charles Darwin. Next slide. He was of the opinion, he means William Morris Davis, he was of the opinion that landforms development is controlled by three factors. Number one, structure. And if you need to elaborate, in case the question is directly in this form, landform is a function of structure, process and stage. You have to devote some lines to this one. And I will explain you briefly. Structure means types of rocks. You have the hard rocks and the soft rocks. Generally, igneous rocks are hard rocks. Sedimentary rocks are soft rocks. So the soft rocks will be eroded fast. Hard rocks will get time or will take time. They have more resistance. And their third category of rocks is metamorphic. They may be very hard like marble. They may be like breccia, very soft. So he said that what type of landform will develop, it depends on the structure, types of rocks. Then rocks have other features also. Some are flat, some are having folds and faults and fractures. That will also affect the rate of weathering, the rate of erosion. This is the meaning. You see, the basalt and granite, they will take more time to get weathered, to get eroded. That is the idea, that structure affects. In the structure, he also added the slope. If there is a steep slope, there is a chance that the weathering will be more strong. And if there is a gentle slope, the weathering other processes may be slow. So this is actually the structure, what he means. Then he sent processes. In our subject or geomorphology, there are two important processes which are working: endogenetic and exogenetic. Endogenetic processes, they create landforms. Upheaval of a mountain, eruption of a volcano, or earthquakes, they are endogenetic forces, or drift of continent. These are known as the endogenetic forces. The landforms shape depends on the endogenetic forces plus the exogenetic forces known as the destructive forces. They destroy, they try to reduce. Which one is more strong? Whether it is endogenetic force or exogenetic, or both are at par to each other. This is the second idea. The shape of landforms depend on the endogenetic and exogenetic process. For example, in the case of Himalayas, the endogenetic forces are still strong. The exogenetic forces are also strong. They are trying to erode, weather and remove it. This is the process going on. So when you talk about processes, write a few sentences on the endogenetic and the exogenetic forces. In some areas, the endogenetic forces are strong. In some areas, the exogenetic forces are strong. They will determine what will be the shape of the landform. And the third one is the stage. Stage is a word which is used in geology. The geography people use time. Time is more simple. And time, according to Davis, means the stages of life. The stages of life are youth, mature and old. This is time. Youth, this is time. By looking at the topography of a region or shape of landforms, you can predict, oh, it is in the youth stage, or it is in the mature stage, or it is in the old stage. It depends. In the youth stage, generally erosion is more. In mature stage, both are proceeding. Sometimes erosion is more, sometimes deposition is more. But in the old age, deposition is more. Because हाथ पैर कमजोर हो गए, नदी बहती है लेकिन पूरा बोझ नहीं ढो पाती, तो वो छोड़ती जाती है. छोड़ो इस दुनिया को, रेत को इधर डाल दो, उधर डाल दो. This is the old stage. So if the question is in this form, you have to introduce that this is normal cycle of erosion advocated by William Morris Davis in 1899. For this study, his field work was done in the Pennsylvania River Basin. This is in Appalachian Mountains. So to give this fellow was influenced by Charles Darwin, and said not only living organism struggle, the non-living also survive through struggle. ये इस तरह से सिंपल सेंटेंस लिखिए, किताब में बहुत कुछ लिखा है, वो हमारे काम का नहीं इम्तहान के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, बट वी हैव टू बी वेरी क्रिस्टल क्लियर. नाउ if the question is in this form, you can explain what is the structure, what is process, and what is the stage. Pass on to the next aspect. Cycle of erosion means the period of time during which an uplifted mountain in bracket land mass bracket closed is reduced to the peneplain, P-E-N-E-P-L-A-I-N, peneplain or base level or sea level. This is the duration. When any elevated landform, it may be a mountain, it may be any other type of feature, is reduced to the sea level, that time is known as cycle of erosion. It may be short period. In geology generally it is a very long period, because about the Himalayas we know, as the geologists say, that Himalayas are rising for the last 60 million years. This is the beginning of upheaval. Earlier it was a Tethys Sea. The sediments started going up, and they say another 60 million years will take to see Himalayas like Aravallis. तो इसकी कहते हैं कि इसकी उम्र तो सिर्फ 12 करोड़ की होगी, और इसको कहते हैं कि ये 11 साल की एज में है अब. तो ये 5वीं 6ठी क्लास का बच्चा है. कितना मैच्योर है? कहते हैं हिमालय इज हाईली इमेच्योर, इरेटिक बिहेवियर है, इसका बिहेवियर मैच्योर नहीं है. अरावली कहता है कि हम हैं, देखें हमने 60 करोड़ देख लिए, हम पढ़े हैं 60 करोड़ बरस से, बूढ़े हैं, हमने ऑब्जर्व किया है वेदर क्या होता है, हम बिला वजह नीचे नहीं हुए. तो माउंटेन और उसकी एज में इनवर्स रिलेशनशिप होती है. हायर द माउंटेन यंगर इन एज, लोअर द माउंटेन ओल्डर इन एज. ये सब लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, दीज आर जस्ट कॉमन. आफ्टर राइटिंग दीज फ्यू सेंटेंसेस, गिव ए हेडिंग, assumptions of the model. आपके कुछ सीनियर आपको गाइड करेंगे, हेडिंग ना दीजिए, आप जरूर दीजिए, क्योंकि वो फेल हो चुके हैं और हम ये नहीं चाहते कि आप फेल हो. जो फेल हो के आपको गाइड करते हैं उनकी बात कभी ना मानिए. यू आर इक्वली इंटेलिजेंट, मे बी मोर इंटेलिजेंट देन दोज हु फेल्ड. लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेट बात यह है कि वो गाइड बन जाते हैं. वो गाइड करने लगे, ये करो ये मत करो, देखो मेरे नंबर नहीं आए, अरे भाई तुम्हारे नहीं आए तो मुझे तो लाने दो. तो उनकी गाइडेंस में कभी ना आइए. हम जो कहते हैं एज ए रेस्पॉन्सिबल टीचर गाइड करते हैं आपको, एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स टू सिक्योर बेटर मार्क्स, बेटर देन अदर. सो गिव द हेडिंग एंड assumptions of the model. I mean, Davy said this model will apply when the conditions are existing. Number 1, the region is recording rainfall. Though later on he applied it into deserts also in 1905. But the normal cycle, he said, will apply in the area where rainfall is occurring. It means there are rivers. बारिश होगी तो पानी बहेगा भी. This is one condition. Number 2, evolution of landforms. Evolution of landforms takes place in a sequential order. This is second assumption. And sequential order means youth, mature and old. ऐसा नहीं कि बूढ़ा पहले बने और फिर वो बच्चा बने. It will be right from the childhood to mature and then it will be old. This is sequential development of landforms. Number 3, there is short period of upliftment of a landmass. I mean, he presumed that the upliftment of Himalaya is a short period. Short maybe 10 lakhs years or so. He assumed that upheaval is a short duration period, which goes against this theory, because Himalayas are still rising. Next point, the streams erode first downward. Their valleys and headward. Downward and headward. Last assumption. Erosion does not start unless the upliftment is complete. Actually, this last point was criticized very seriously by the Germans. Davis said that upliftment is a short duration period. This is upliftment. This is also known as updoming. Davis said it is a short duration activity of endogenetic force. In last point, he assumed that the exogenetic forces will not work unless it is completed. The Germans said both the endogenetic and the exogenetic forces, they work simultaneously. If there is upheaval, there is erosion also. There is weathering, there is erosion also. So Davis was ridiculed by the Germans. इनकी कंट्रोवर्सी बड़ी भारी है थ्रू आउट ज्योग्राफी और सब्जेक्ट्स में भी है. जर्मन्स अपने आप को सुपीरियर समझते हैं, अंग्रेज इंग्लिश बोलने वाले अपने आप को सुपीरियर समझते हैं, बट कहीं आपको लगेगा रियली जर्मन्स हैव ब्राइट ब्रेन. कहते हैं ना, among all the races, it will be in human geography, among all the races, Aryans are the superior, and the German Aryans are the superior most. आर्यन सुपीरियर हैं, लेकिन उनमें भी जो जर्मन आर्यंस है वो सबसे ऊपर हैं. इसीलिए उनके अंदर एक फीलिंग ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत है. द जर्मन्स फील वी आर सुपीरियर. इसलिए दुनिया पे हमारी हुकूमत होनी चाहिए. हो तो नहीं पाई, हिटलर ने भी कोशिश कर ली, कोलैप्स भी हुआ, लेकिन अंदर से उनकी फीलिंग जरूर है. अब मैं बताऊं, मैं उनके साथ रह चुका हूं. दे कंसिडर देमसेल्फ वी आर सुपीरियर. We are more hard working and we are more intelligent also. तो जो हार्ड वर्किंग भी है, इंटेलिजेंट भी हैं, तो वो उन्होंने वो थ्योरी वही चलाई कि हमको रूल करना चाहिए वर्ल्ड को. ये जो कमजोर हैं, वीक हैं, इनको थोड़ा ही करना चाहिए. ये चल रहे हैं. अब हम लोग भी बहुत हार्ड वर्किंग है, आर्यंस हम में भी बहुत हैं, लेकिन काम किया कछुए की तरह, घर के खरगोश की तरह सो गए। एक हफ्ता बहुत मेहनत कर ली और ढिंडोरा पीट दिया पूरे मार्केट में। रात के 3 बजे सोता हूँ, पता है, ये भी पढ़ लिया, वो भी पढ़ लिया, वो भी पढ़ लिया, और आपको नर्वस कर देगा वो। बट नेवर बी फूल्ड बाय दैट। रेगुलर काम करो 3-4 घंटे, वो होती है स्टडी। ये नहीं कि एक हफ्ता बहुत मेहनत कर ली और बीमार होकर अस्पताल या दवाई खा रहे हैं, उसके बाद बराबर हो जाता लेखा जोखा। ये कंसिस्टेंसी जिसको कहते हैं ना, डिलीजेंस, रेगुलर वर्क, वो इंपॉर्टेंट होता है। आईएएस कभी बहुत जीनियस नहीं बनते, एवरेज स्टूडेंट बनते हैं, जिन्होंने लगातार काम किया है, जिन्होंने अपना सिलेबस को ठीक से तैयार किया है, जिनको लिखना आता है, 3 घंटे में पेपर करना आता है, वो बच्चे आईएएस होते हैं। इसमें कहिए कि वो बहुत इंटेलिजेंट है, कुछ नहीं। इंटेलिजेंट धरी रह जाती है अगर आपको कंसेप्ट ना आता हो। कितने भी इंटेलिजेंट हो, सूडो वॉल्केनो नहीं लिख पाए होंगे अगर नहीं पढ़ रखा है। जिसने पढ़ रखा है, चाहे एवरेज बुद्धि का हो, वो लिख के आएगा, उसको नंबर मिलेंगे। तो ये सिंपल बात है। इसलिए किसी हीन भावना का शिकार नहीं हुआ करते कि भाई ये ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट है। हो सकता है मैथ्स का सवाल जल्दी कर लेता हो या न्यूमेरिकल निकालता हो, लेकिन आप किसी से कम नहीं। ज्योग्राफी जैसे सब्जेक्ट में एवरीबडी इज इक्वल, तो हु आर वर्किंग रेगुलर। सो ये 4-5 पॉइंट आप दीजिए, दीज आर द एजम्पशंस। And after these assumptions, give a diagram. Model of Davis. And this is from his book, Geomorphology. सबने वहीं से लेकर के अपनी अपनी ढंग से उसमें मॉडिफाई कर दिया है, लेकिन ये है डेविस का ग्राफ। On the base, x-axis is the time or stage. On the y-axis is high altitude above the sea level. So if you read this graph carefully, you will find there is a very short period of upliftment. The updoming, this small area or small period is available for the upliftment, or upliftment is completed in a short period. And after this is weathering and erosion. This UC means upper curve, LC means lower curve. This is the youth stage. This youth. In the youth stage there are steep sided valleys, gorges, waterfalls, maybe many other features also. So this is, he said, erosion started, weathering erosion here. After the height was achieved, after the upliftment was completed, when the endogenetic forces completed their work, the work of the exogenetic forces started. He said it like this. It is one of the assumptions also, though it is wrong, because the endogenetic and the exogenetic forces, they work simultaneously. They never wait कि पहले सिविल इंजीनियर आके बिल्डिंग बना जाए, उसके बाद इलेक्ट्रिकल आगे इसमें फिटिंग करेगा, पंखे लगाएगा, बिजली की फिटिंग होगी। नेचर में ऐसा नहीं है। When endogenetic forces are raising or doing upheaval, the exogenetic forces are trying to reduce it. Now they say this period is not a very long period. It is a short period where there will be downward cutting. This downward cutting is the rivers or streams are deepening their valleys in the mountainous areas. As the time passes, the height will come down. Earlier the height was this one height. The updoming was like this. Now it is coming down. These valleys are becoming wide. This is the mature stage. When the sideward cutting is also significant, the rivers are widening their plain areas. That is a symptom of mature stage. In the mature stage, the steep slopes are eroded, and on gentle slope, deposition starts. And this is the old stage. The topography has come. This is base level or sea level. So gradually from highest altitude it is coming down towards the sea level. This is the stage of peneplain. Peneplain is a stage in which the slopes disappear. There may be remnant hard rocks. On these hard rocks, erosion is not possible or erosion is insignificant. The river has already reached the sea level. This is his model. He defined what is relief or landform. Somewhere you have to explain this. Landform is the difference of UC, upper curve, and lower curve. This is LC. If there is a river flowing here, the distance or altitude between this point and this point is known as landform or relief feature. So somewhere you have to give the explanation of what do I mean by UC and LC. UC means upper curve, absolute relief from sea level. LC is lower curve. This is the relief. And as AC, maximum absolute relief. This is A and C. This is the maximum. Now it is coming down and lowering itself, finally reaching the stage of peneplain. This diagram is to be given after the assumptions. He said any landform elevated area passes through youth, mature and old stage. And old stage is the stage when the topography has reached the sea level in the peneplain area. Further downward cutting is not possible. And while doing this drawing, one point which the examiners observe. This is youth stage, this is mature stage. The total of these two should be less than the old stage. Old stage is very long. So draw your graph in such a way that you express to the examiner, I know that old stage is a very long stage. A mountain uplifted part of the landforms remain in the old stage for a long time, more than the total of the youth and the mature. इस डायग्राम में यही देखा जाता है. तीनों को इक्वली डिवाइड ना कर दीजिए. It means youth, mature and old are of the same duration. Keep in mind that the youth and mature should be less than the length of the old stage. ये ध्यान रखना, यही एग्जामिनर देखता है. Because in the history of mountains, in the history of landforms, old is a very long period. Youth is a short period. जवानी दीवानी 4 दिन की होती है. वही यहाँ अप्लाई होता है कि ये पीरियड छोटे हैं, किस अहंकार में लगे हुए. ये अल्टीमेटली आपको यहाँ आना है. डिफरेंस दोनों में यह है कि ह्यूमन का ओल्ड एज छोटी होती है. डीआईजी रिटायर होता है, सुबह को लेके टहलने जाता है, रिटायरमेंट के बाद कुत्ते को, तो लोग कहते हैं कुत्ता जा रहा है, और ये कुछ कह नहीं सकता उसको, देखो कुत्ता जा रहा है. डीआईजी रिटायर्ड है, वो कुत्ते के साथ जा रहा है. उसको सदमा होता है कि ये मेरे हाथ में कुछ नहीं, मुझको कुत्ता कहते हैं. जानता है वो. उस फ्रस्ट्रेशन में शाम को बैठ के दिन में भी खूब ड्रिंक करता है. कंपनी ऐसी है, हमेशा क्रिमिनल्स की मार पिटाई की है. मार पिटाई करना कोई आसान काम नहीं है. बहुत पत्थर का दिल चाहिए दूसरे को पिटता हुआ देखना. तो ये लोग ठर्रा वर्रा पी के देखते रहते हैं। शाम को बैठे, भाई इसको ट्रीटमेंट रूम में ले जाओ, उसका इलाज हो रहा है, सिपाही डंडा बजा रहे हैं, वो चीख रहा है, ये इंजॉय कर रहा है। ये अगर आपकी साइकी है तो आईपीएस में जाइए। लेकिन अगर आप ब्राह्मण हैं, तबीयत से पंडित हैं, स्कॉलर हैं, या सरस्वती के पुजारी हैं, तो उधर ना जाइए, फिर आपको बहुत दुख होगा। आईएएस अपना फर्स्ट चॉइस आईएएस की ही देनी चाहिए, दूसरी आईपीएस की दीजिए। उसमें आप मेडिकल में अपने आप को अनफिट डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं। मेरा एक लड़का था दुबे, ये मेरा लड़का, उसने अपने आप को मेडिकली अनफिट किया। आईपीएस हो गए साहब, ये क्या मुसीबत आ गई, मुझको आईपीएस बना दिया। अरे भाई दुनिया चाहती है, एक क्लास सर्विस है। नहीं साहब, मैं तो पंडित हुई, एक माँ है, एक बाप है, और कोई है ही नहीं। अब सबकी बद्दुआ मुझे लगा करेगी, मारा करूंगा मैं, और अव्वल में तो मैं पिटता हुआ देख नहीं सकता किसी को। जेंटल बॉय था। तो जब मेडिकल हुआ, उसने विजन फेल करा दिया, अपना पढ़ ही नहीं पाया चार्ट। वो तैयारी करके आया था कि सही नहीं पढ़ना है। बहुत अच्छा आईआईटी कानपुर का लड़का, हिंदी मीडियम से दिया था, और पहले अटेम्प्ट में सिलेक्ट भी हुआ। फिर आगे उसने मुझे बताया कि सब मैं तो बच गया, अब मुझे कस्टम एक्सरसाइज मिल गया, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी, आई एम कंटेंटेड, कि ऑफिस वर्क जितना होगा मैं करूंगा, लेकिन उस जगह में नहीं जाऊंगा। तो ये ऐसा भी होता है। और लड़कियां तो जब तक किरण बेदी ना हो, उधर ना जाए। अगर आप में वो, हमारी एक लड़की थी रवीना त्यागी, बरेली में आजकल एसपी है, तो उसको मैं पहले ही कहता था, तुम तो किरण बेदी हो क्लास में, तुमको आईपीएस होना चाहिए, चांस की बात है आईपीएस ही होगी। लेकिन वो बोल्ड लड़की बहुत है, मुझे पता था, स्टूडेंट्स का आइडिया हो जाता है टीचर को, बहुत बोल्ड थी, एंड शी इज डूइंग वेरी वेल। ये गाजियाबाद की लड़की है। खैर, दिस डायग्राम इज टू बी गिवन वेरी केयरफुली, कहने का मतलब ये है, इस पर टाइम लगाइए। और इम्पॉर्टेंट बात यह है कि इस एरिया को जरा सा आप लंबा बनाइए, एंड दिस इज द पेनिप्लेन एरिया। नेक्स्ट, गिव हेडिंग यूथ स्टेज। In the youth stage, a river does downward and headward cutting. Consequently, there is development of steep-sided valleys. Waterfalls, rapids, cataracts, river terraces, stop. The network of tributaries is not dense. Next point, there is a tendency of river capturing. River capturing and in the examination there may be a short note on river capturing. 10 marks compulsory question. First I will show you some diagram, because in 20 minutes we cannot do many things. we have to take the help. Remember, in the youth stage, the river is very notorious like children. पानी उछल कूद करता है, brings down some boulders, hit the ground, and downward cutting is in progress. If there is a hard rock in the course of a river or stream, there may be a waterfall. If the slope is very steep, the depth of the channel will not be much, but the river water will be passing swiftly, very fast, or there may be small cataracts. These are some river terraces. See, what is the condition of youth stage? This is actually the youth stage. The rivers have started developing. The network is not complete. If there is water here, where it will go, this side or this side? Not defined. But these rivers will do downward cutting. When they are doing downward cutting, they will be extending their source of origin further. That is known as headward cutting. When there is downward cutting, that lead to headward cutting also. So these streams extend. When they extend their channels or their length, there is a chance of river capturing. River capturing they do. They capture the water of another river. In this process, for example, if the rivers are like this, the network has extended. Most of the water is going either in this river or in that river. So in the youth stage, a peculiar feature is the river capturing. And river capturing may be a short note in your compulsory question. And I will give you a few points separately. Note down what is river capturing. River capturing is a phenomenon of youth stage. In the normal cycle of erosion. In this stage, the river does downward cutting and extends its channel headward, as given in the following diagram. As given in the following diagram. Now, these two diagrams are from the book of Hamblin. You see, there is one river. One river, it is going this side. It is the tributary of this A river. Another river is coming this side. I can label them as A river and B river. One is going this side, another is coming this side. If you look at this diagram, the slope is steeper on this side. A steeper stream will be doing more downward cutting. When it is doing more downward cutting, it is extending its course. A time may come when it may reach up to this, and then it will divert the water of this and this in this direction. As shown here, these two were the tributaries or main branches of A river going this side. But now, because of the notorious behavior of this steeper river, the river water of the previous has been diverted in its channel. This is known as river piracy or river capturing. नदी नदी का पानी चुरा लेती है। बच्चे चोरी करते हैं, बड़े नहीं करते जब तक कि ट्रेन ना हो जाए। कुछ तो हैबिचुअल होते हैं कि बगैर चोरी के मजा ही नहीं आता, जब तक कोई रिस्क ना हो। नॉर्मली द चिल्ड्रन आर, किसी की पेंसिल चुरा ली, किसी की रबर चुरा ली, स्कूलों की बात है। मैच्योर आदमी कभी नहीं करेगा, he will not try, he knows it is a crime. So in this stage, this diagram is a very interesting diagram, and try to give this diagram, not the diagram which is given in the Indian books. It is from foreign author. So the river has done capturing, and now this river will originate from this point. It may be dry for some part. So between this and this there is a dotted area. There is a gap. It is known as wind gap. Perhaps this question was asked. The term wind gap is associated with running water, and it happens in the case of river capture or river capturing or river piracy. This is. Now, then some practical. In the Himalayas, the Kosi river has captured the water of Arun river. Arun river capturing has done. ARUN. Stop. The Yamuna river has captured the water of Saraswati near Ambala. If you go to Chandigarh, just before the Ambala Cant, when you enter actually in the city, just before the Ambala Cant, this is a bridge, and that bridge is on a river, but down below there is only sand. That may be carrying some water at the time of rains, but actually that is known as a Ghaggar river. It is the abundant course of Saraswati. Yamuna was coming towards this side. The slope was more steep. That river was going through Haryana, present Haryana, towards Rajasthan, finally to Arabian Sea. So this Yamuna river has captured the water of Saraswati, brought the water towards in its original course, and they developed a wind gap near Ambala, Yamuna Nagar, etc. That example also you can cite, and similar type of examples can be found in Mekong river. Arun, ARUN. If you write this much, the concept is clear to you, but try to explain that it is a phenomena of the youth stage in the life cycle of a landform or river history. इतना आपको लिखना है, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं. Now come back. There are some landforms which you very easily can mention. The landforms of the youth stage are, I will show you a diagram. It is in the hilly area. You need not to give this diagram. I will show you simple one. Actually, the river is coming this side. This is a steep slope. Perhaps the rocks are very hard, so this is a waterfall. Then this is a rapid. Water is swiftly flowing. On the sides are boulders, etc. There is a overhanging cliff or overhanging waterfall. There may be river terraces and deep gorges. A simple way to show these landforms of youth stage is this one. All the features have been shown here. In this stage you will find peaks, saddle, ridge, cliff, spur, gorge, V-shaped valley, ravines, canyon, waterfalls, rapid repeated cataract terraces. And the sideward cutting is less, though the same thing has been shown here. This is a waterfall. It is a cataract. There are small waterfalls. This is a rapid. On the mountains there will be alluvial fan between the peaks. River terraces. So this is enough. Now come to the mature stage. In the mature stage, a river starts widening its valley. Number 2, meandering and development of oxbow lakes. Then number 3, floodplains. Next, natural levees. Next, Yazoo rivers. Actually, this term Yazoo is from Japanese language. Suppose this is a river flowing like this. This is the natural slope of the river. Another river is coming from this side, but instead of merging in this river here, it starts moving parallel to the original stream. Why it is flowing parallel to the main stream? Because there is a natural levee. There is an embankment, एक बांध यहाँ बना दिया दरिया ने. So it is not able to cross this embankment. It starts flowing parallel to the river. In Japanese language, such a river is known as Yazoo. NCERT से काम नहीं चलता है, इतनी टेक्निकल चीजें उसमें नहीं दी हुई होंगी. So remember, Yazoo is a phenomenon or a characteristics of the plain area mature stage. When the river is not directly merging through the shortest route, it moves parallel to the main river, because in between there is a natural embankment or levee. Such rivers in Japanese language are known as Yazoo river. You can find Yazoo river in the middle course of Ganga. There are many rivers which are falling to some distance parallel to the main Ganga instead of merging into the Ganga. It is because there are some levees or natural bandh or natural embankment. So these are the features of the old stage, and you can give a diagram, if possible not in color, in black and white. This is a flood plain, and flood plain is a characteristic of the mature stage. These are the meanders. Some meanders are very sharp. Some meanders have been cut from the main river. Earlier it was moving like this. This was going like this. So this deposition here and deposition here, they have been separated from the main channel after the flood. So this is a typical flood plain. And see, here are the natural embankments. Even more simple diagram, in case it is difficult for you, you can give this diagram. Shows meanders and the advanced stage ready for oxbow lakes. This will be another oxbow lake after some time. These are the oxbow lakes. And finally, pass on to the mature stage. No, sorry, old stage. In the old stage, the landforms are reduced close to the base level. There develops a peneplain. The number of tributaries is reduced. The main work of the stream is deposition. Deposition and formation of delta or estuary. This is the longest period in the life history of a landform. Just for showing, not for the examination, because in the examination you cannot do many things simultaneously. In this question, that graph is a must, showing the upper curve and the lower. See the three stages. Youth stages, number of tributaries is very small. There are small channels developing. But here there is a dense network. The divides, water divides have been reduced. The water is going from this side to this and this side. So complete network. In the final old stage, you will observe only a few important rivers. Rest slope disappeared. The tributaries also disappeared. Now this is actually diagram showing what is a graded stream or what is base level or graded stream. The concept developed by Powell in 1875. You see, this is a mountain, upheaval part. It is going towards the sea. Sea is here. Now, downward cutting is in progress. If it is number 1, then it will go further down. Downward cutting will continue. Further down, number 3, number 4, number 5. Finally, it will be in the stage of sea level. This is known as a graded stream. The stream has removed the elevated portion through downward cutting. If there is a short note on graded stream, it should not be difficult for you, because on river channels or topography of a river stream, they are asking a question. This diagram explains Powell's concept of graded stream. A river from an elevated area does downward cutting, removes the material, carry the material to the ocean or sea or some bay, and over the period of time it is finally reduced to the sea level. This is known as the base level of Powell, or the graded stream, or the penny plane of William Morris Davis. After writing this much, do the evaluation of this model. What are the plus point and the minus point? Positive aspect of this model, positive, plus point. Number one, this model is quite simple to understand. And applicable in the areas where rainfall occurs. Number two, the terminology and language are convincing. Number three, the model is based on field study, and therefore it is scientific. Number four, this theory incorporates the concept of base level. The concept of base level, or the lowest level up to which a river can erode, that is sea level. Last point, the model is predictive in nature. Prediction in nature, and helps in understanding the landforms of any region. Landforms of any region under study. These are the plus points. It is very simple. And the analogy or comparison is human analogy, youth, mature and old. Now come to the negative aspect, that is criticism. Number one, Davies' concept of upliftment in a short period of time is not acceptable. You know, he said upheaval is a short period activity. Himalayas are still rising. If you take 60 million years as a short period, then it is difficult to understand. Himalayas are still rising. So that is not a short period. 60 million years, that is a short period. So this is not acceptable to the geomorphologist. The upheaval is a continuous process. It depends on the isostatic equilibrium also, rate of erosion. So this is one weakness. He said this is a short period of upliftment. Number two, the second weakness. The sequential development the sequential development is also not acceptable. What it means? Each youth will become a mature and mature will enter into the old stage. This is the sequential development. It looks logical. But suppose a landform is in the mature stage and there is a volcanic eruption. If there is a cone, volcanic cone, the erosion will begin. It has gone back to the youth stage. Though it was in the mature stage, but if there is a volcanic eruption somewhere, a cone has been created. Volcanic cone, the erosion and weathering will start, and that is the youth stage. So this condition is also not acceptable. The third objection is, Davis presumed that there is a long period of crustal stability Actually, it should have gone there in the assumptions also. He assumed that after the upheaval of a landform or landmass or a mountain, there is a very long period of stable. There is no endogenetic force. The endogenetic force stops after upheaval. He assumed this thing also, but it is not a fact. In reality, the endogenetic and the exogenetic forces are working together. You cannot say तुम अब चुप रहो, अब मैं काम करूंगा, अब एक्सोजेनेटिक फोर्स काम करेगी. ऐसा नहीं होता नेचर में. इन नेचर the endogenetic forces and the exogenetic forces are working simultaneously. Sometimes the endogenetic force may be strong, sometimes the exogenetic force may be strong. So this assumption was also criticized. He assumed there is a long period of stability of the earth crust, means no earthquake, no volcanic eruption, no plate movement, no mountain building. This is also not acceptable. And lastly, the exogenetic forces start working when the endogenetic forces complete their work. This was an assumption. It has also been criticized because the endogenetic forces are always active. Sometimes they are more active, sometimes are less. But you cannot say that endogenetic forces are silent. You see, during the Cretaceous period, about 140 million years back, the place where you have the Deccan lava plateau, there were thousands of volcanoes in this area. Now there is no volcano. So sometimes there may be a period of peace and tranquility, but you cannot say that the endogenetic forces have stopped doing their work. Therefore, the German scholars particularly criticized this scholar and saying he assumed something which are the assumptions are illogical. These are the criticism of this theory. And lastly, despite all these omissions and commissions, despite all these omissions and commissions, W.M. Davis was the first scholar who propounded the first theory of landforms development? Stop. It is because of this theory that Davis is known as the father of geomorphology. I think for a 20 marks question, this much text is sufficient. But in this answer, at least one graph is a must. And that shows how the relief is coming down to the sea level, passing through youth, mature and old stage. That diagram is to be practiced by you. Rest, it depends on your speed. If you can show a few diagrams of youth stage, mature stage and old stage, fine. That will be added advantage. But for 60%, 55 and 60%, the examiner expects you that the graph has been properly given with some point-wise arrangement of your answer. And if you add some more waterfall, for example, rapid cataract, in the middle stage, meandering of a river, floodplain or oxbow lakes, then in the delta region, some estuary or delta, you can cross 65 or 70 is also a possibility. Out of 20, you can touch 14 also if your answer is so nicely arranged, properly written, and the language is legible, can be read by the senior citizens or your examiners. अगर ये आप करें, इतना आप इसमें देखिए. This is an important question, may be asked in the examination this year. Now, this model was criticized by the Germans, and the Germans developed their own model.